Share and share again with anybody you think that might be interested in this. Other women, hairstylists, makeup artists, even other healthcare professionals, because I think we're probably going to be covering some information tonight that a lot of even my colleagues don't know. So please make sure you share it with everybody you know. Now, we always start off with our weekly recap, and I cannot do it without my wonderful co-hosts, Lila Mays, coming in from the West Coast, and Mr.
Hello.
Mankin. Hey.
Hi.
Welcome back, Lila. You were missed last week. We got questions and everything, but we are
Oh,
glad
thank
you are
you.
back here.
Glad to be back.
Lila Mays
Absolutely.
dialing in. So look, Dr. Mill, let me
Yes.
say this. Let me say this before we start.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't my fault. I'm just saying, people who saying the audio was out, they could hear me breathing and couldn't hear Dr. Mel. It wasn't my fault.
Okay.
So y'all
Thank
get
you
that
for
straight.
bringing that up.
I'm going. In fact, we're going to record from here. We're going to hit that again. See our names come in. It wasn't my fault.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Well, we have established that now. You are in the clear, and thank you for clearing that up. And we are going to move on with the numbers. So, we are 49.9 million cases deep in COVID to date. And we're on the upswing again, y'all. Unfortunately, I mean, could have been predicted. We're going into the colder months. We're over 110,000 new cases of COVID every day and climbing. And hospitalizations are on the upswing too, more than 50,000 hospitalizations. And of course, the hospitals now, especially in some of the northern states and New Mexico, I don't know why New Mexico, but they're starting to get overwhelmed now. So, yeah, we should be doing better than this far into the pandemic, but unfortunately, it looks like we're about to go into another wave.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, of course, with the souls lost to COVID, we're closing in on 800,000 individuals lost to COVID since the start of the pandemic, and we're having over 1,100 deaths a day, and this is increasing. So for the past few weeks, I've been able to say that number has been going down, but unfortunately now, because of the higher number of cases and hospitalizations, we're actually seeing the deaths go up.
I have a whole rant in my spirit about that, but we'll get to that before we get into Vax Facts, Dr. Mill. So cases are on the rise, deaths obviously are on the rise. But then I think it's important that we talk about folks who have recovered from severe COVID, because people think it's over when it's really not.
Yeah, unfortunately, some additional sad news came out in a study that was done that showed that people who recover from severe COVID have twice the chance of dying in the following year
Ooh.
than those who never develop COVID at all, with the same kind of health status. So you can't necessarily say, oh, well, it was because they have underlying health conditions, which they do. But when you compare them to people who have underlying health conditions who never had COVID, the death rate is twice as much. And the kicker is these this information is especially true for people under age 65. And so
Ooh.
it seems like COVID is causing a severe decline in overall health once you get it and putting the survivors at greatest risk. And so, of course, the best way to avoid this is to be vaccinated. And if you're double vaccinated already, go ahead and get your booster because that's the best way to date, coupled with masking and physical distancing, to never get COVID at all.
Right. Facts. Get them. Get. That's the vax fact. Get vaccinated.
Right.
Yes, that is the facts. That,
That's the
basically,
fact.
I mean,
That's the vax fact.
yep. So, but the good thing is 64% of the population that's 5 and older is fully vaxxed. And I'm shouting out the 65-year-olds and older. 99.9% of them have gotten at least one dose. So
That's
that's a
awesome.
beautiful thing.
The mamas
So
and
shout
them.
out to the mamas and the grandmamas and them. Shout out to you all. And
Aunties, all of them.
Right.
aunties, all of them. They are there for it, and over 40% have gotten a booster. So that's
Right.
wonderful.
All right, y'all are leading by example. That's all
There you
right.
go. Yes.
And keep on leading by example because this new Omicron variant is wreaking havoc. I actually had to cancel 2 events that were on site because our protocols are changing yet again.
Wow.
Yeah, because of this variant, Dr. Mel.
Wow. And there are stricter travel restrictions coming in as of, I think, tomorrow morning, where
Yeah.
if you're going to be traveling internationally, you have to have a COVID test within 24 hours of departure, as opposed to 72 hours of
72.
departure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's changing. And, Omicron is here. It's in the United States. It's in multiple states. It's in multiple countries, over 35 countries and counting. And again, I just want to shout out South Africa for sharing their data. It doesn't mean that the Omicron variant started there, but it means that it was detected there because they have fantastic surveillance systems and testing where they're doing the genetic testing on these strains and we're able to figure out that it was a variant. And we're seeing that cases are just exploding there in certain parts of the country. What we're seeing is that that the people that are getting sicker are the people who are over 65 and the people under 5. So it's actually kind of more similar to the demographics of who the flu makes the sickest, right? The flu
Interesting.
gets really, really young children and really older people. But we're still trying to figure out, because it's too early yet to know. It's only been 2 or 3 weeks. Is it going to turn out to be more severe than Delta in terms of the kind of disease that it gives you? Will the antibodies stand up to it? So far, it looks like disease is milder, but I don't want to lull people into a false sense of security, because what's happening in South Africa, where most of the data is coming from, is they are seeing milder disease, but they're seeing that the Omicron variant is affecting younger people. So 80% of the hospitalizations are in people under age 59, and 1 in 5 of the admissions were in children under 9. And so we know historically, in terms of the previous variants, that when the virus affects younger people, the disease is not as severe. And the thought is that because younger people are out mingling in the population, that's why they're getting sicker first. So still, the jury is out. We got to wait a couple weeks to see how this all plays out.
Okay.
Dr. Mel,
So
can I interrupt here?
Yeah.
Can I say the word Omicron like Reverend Al Sharpton?
go
No,
for it.
because you're going to mess me up.
Okay. I'll get back to it, y'all. Y'all got to hear me say Omicron. Just say. Okay, Dr. Mel.
Stick with Omicron. Stick with
Okay.
Omicron.
All
That's
right.
the proper
Right.
way.
I will.
All right. So still harping, Lila is still harping on vaccines. So to protect yourself from variants like Omicron, get vaccinated. And for those of you who don't want to get vaccinated, but you want to act like you vaccinated to get a fake vaccine card, it's a whole felony. How about that?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And it
Not a
is
half of one,
punishable.
it's a whole one. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it is punishable. At least, we saw Antonio Brown of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He got suspended for misrepresenting his vaccine status with a fake vaccine card. And the issue is this: the vaccine cards often include the official government seals of the U.S.
Right.
Department of Health and Human Services and the Centers for Disease Control. So if you fake it and buy a card with one of those fake seals on it, it is a federal crime with a $250,000 potential fine and a maximum 5 years in prison. So it's probably not the safe way to go. Plus, HR professionals at jobs are being schooled in how to recognize these fake vaccination cards, with things like, if the date of the vaccination that you got doesn't align with this when the specific vaccine was approved by the or authorized by the CDC, if the card leaves out key information like the lot number, if the handwriting is the same on both doses, because typically it's different people that give you the 2 different doses. So, and then finally, the vaccination center has records. So your employer can dip back with that vaccination center and verify, whether you actually got vaccinated there or not. So it's sort of like a crime doesn't pay kind of scenario.
Yeah.
And the vaccine is free. So,
That
you know,
part.
That
It's free.
that whole part is
yeah,
free.
it kind of doesn't add up.
Just doesn't.
You get protected and for free.
And
Right.
with Antonio Brown, just count the costs. I mean,
Oh,
it's he loses out about $150,000 a game
just silly.
for 3 games,
Wow.
and
And the vaccine is free.
the vaccine is free.
Yeah.
Just so
Oh,
it doesn't
wow.
matter. So, Dr. Mel, and since I can't say my word, I'm just gonna move on. Dr. Mel, December 1st was World AIDS Day, and it seems like we made great advances and great strides with HIV and AIDS, but it seems like Black men of color, I should say, are being left behind in some of those things.
That is the truth, on both counts. So, new HIV infections fell among men who have sex with men by 32%, but that's in the white population. In the Black population, they stay the same, and for Hispanic men, unfortunately, that figure went up. And there are a variety of reasons for that, but one of them is that the information about prevention is not necessarily getting out to all communities equally. So there are 2 medications or 2 forms of prevention that a lot of people don't know about or are not taking advantage of, possibly because they think that it would be cost prohibitive, but they're actually programs to help afford these medications. So the first is called PrEP, or pre-exposure prophylaxis. So that's for people who don't have HIV but might be at high risk for getting it, and so they can take a daily pill that helps reduce their risk of becoming infected with HIV if they're exposed. And then there's PEP, which stands for post-exposure prophylaxis. So that's something you would take if you were exposed to HIV. You were exposed to HIV. You can take it up to 72 hours, and you continue to take it for 28 days to prevent getting HIV. In the emergency department, it's prescribed often to victims of sexual assault. And so just knowing that these 2 options are available, I think, is really important for anybody who is at high risk of contracting HIV through sex.
Great.
That's great to hear. But let's talk about one of my favorite subjects: poor sleep. As many of you know, I'm in the music industry also, so I tend to stay up a lot of hours working between, the music industry. So Give us an update on poor sleep habits that you haven't
Well,
already said to me.
yeah, we did a whole show on sleep. Remember that with Dr.
Yeah.
Hutchinson maybe about 6 months ago? So if people want to take a deeper dive into that, I would encourage them to go back and take a look at that. But research shows that poor sleep quality has really, really bad effects or potentially bad effects on your health. And that's because during sleep, we cycle through various stages. And during those stages, different hormones are secreted or regulated during that time. So, for example, growth hormone is secreted during slow wave sleep, which is one of the sleep stages. And the growth hormone repairs our blood vessels, little micro tears that happen during the day. And if they don't get repaired, you're at higher risk for high blood sorry, for a heart attack or a stroke. And then the other thing that happens during sleep is vital connections are made between different areas in our brain that are responsible for concentration and memory and decision making and control of our emotions. So, those people who are losing out a lot on sleep have a harder time doing all those things during the day when they're awake. So, just some tips. There's a whole list. A whole section actually of my book, Excuse Me, Doctor, where I talk about sleep hygiene and how to get better sleep, but just 5 of them right now. Try to avoid daytime napping. Try to go to bed roughly at the same time and wake up roughly at the same time to sort of get your body into a habit of doing it. Avoid screens an hour before bedtime. And, Wayne constantly gets on me for not doing this, but it's really important because it actually inhibits the release of melatonin. So, a lot of people have heard of the pill melatonin that you take as a sleep aid. Our body actually releases melatonin to help us go to sleep. And the blue light kind of inhibits that. Keep your bedroom cool, 65 degrees cool, and dark. Both of those things help. And then, of course, what you consume. Avoid caffeine after midday. Minimize your alcohol consumption. Don't eat really heavy meals within 3 hours of going to sleep. All those things can make a difference.
So all you cats doing business dinners at like 8 o'clock at night, they're big steak heavy, you know, steak
You can't go to sleep
with
until after midnight.
two drinks. You are going to be up for a long time. You should be up for a long time. So you know what time it is.
What time is it?
Lila, you back? What time is it now?
It's time for the debunk.
The weekly debunk. Stopping misinformation in its tracks.
This is a good one. So Tyrone Twitter Fingers texted me and said, I finally took my first vaccine shot yesterday, but I saw a TikTok saying I need to buy some borax so I can detox myself of all the toxins in the vaccine.
Borax, bro? Excuse me, Dr. Mel. Is that even remotely true?
No, actually, it is not. It stems from a belief that there are toxins in the vaccine. And I think that is the first thing that we have to address. But, there are a lot of these videos going around that saying that people should take detox baths in borax or, um,
I'm
you
sorry.
blind.
Borax, the thing that you use to kill bugs and whatnot, right? That's
40
what
mule power. 40 mule
That
power
part.
borax
There you go.
that they
Okay.
use. Detergent that they use.
Right. Well, and then also they're advancing detox diets to bind the toxins, quote
Oh my
unquote,
God.
in the vaccines and recommend supplements. And so, again, the root belief is that the vaccine is harmful. And that's just not been the case. It has not borne out. Of course, there are small um, numbers of people who have had side effects um, that are not expected. So we know about the small number of mainly young men who've had myocarditis, and we know about the number of women who've had blood clots. So I'm not denying that there haven't been a very rare instances of these complications. But overall, far and away, the millions of people who have taken the vaccine, over 200 million people in the United States alone, not to mention worldwide, have not had these kinds of issues. And here's the deal. Some of the concerns come from the fact that there is a concern that the genetic material that is in the vaccines, it's what's harmful. But this is the reality, y'all. We are constantly exposed to the genetic material of viruses.
Right.
Every time we get a
Right.
cold, every time we get a stomach flu, we're exposed to the genetic material of viruses. So there's no point in detoxing from something that we're around all the time. Secondly, the contents of the messenger RNA vaccines, the Pfizer and the Moderna, in addition to that genetic material, it's just fat, sugar, and salt that forms a little droplet that keeps the messenger RNA safe as it enters your body. And then as soon as it gets into the cell, it gets destroyed. So, it sticks around long enough for your body to make the spike protein, but then within minutes, boom, it's gone, sort of like a Snapchat. And then once your cells, take it up, take up that the information is used to make the spike protein, and the spike protein then causes antibodies to be made in your body. Those antibodies kill the spike protein or neutralize it and get rid of it. So the only thing that's left is your body's ability to now make antibodies and have the antibodies stick around, which is what you want. So there's really nothing to detox from. So first of all, I want to say to Tyrone Twitter Fingers, congrats. You got your first vaccine, but you don't have to worry about detoxing from it at all.
All right.
So, well, thank you all for the debunk and the
Thank you.
recap. And we're going to be seeing y'all really soon. But I'm going to move into our segment for tonight, which I'm just going to start off by introducing it like this. Black women have the highest occurrence of breast cancer before reaching age 40. Black women are more likely than white women to develop highly aggressive breast cancers and are 40% more likely to die from it at any age. And then on top of that, Black women also suffer disproportionately from hormone-related issues such as preterm birth, uterine fibroids, obesity, infertility, and we even know that Black girls go through puberty and start menstruating earlier than white girls of the same age. The question is this: could it have any relationship at all to the beauty products that we're exposed to? The mascara, the foundation, the hot oil treatments, the anti-frizz polishes, the leave-in conditioners, the organic root stimulators, the hair lotions, the at-home relaxers. Is there a link? We are going to jump right into that topic tonight with our wonderful guest, Dr. Melanie Macklin, aka Dr. Mac. She's a celebrity research and development dermatologist that educates on skin and hair on her Ask Dr. Mac platform. She's had numerous media appearances, including the Steve Harvey Morning Show, SiriusXM, Radio 1, and Chris Rock's Good Hair film, which I saw, which was excellent if you haven't seen it yet. She is the CEO of Innovative Hair Technology, and she is here to join us today. Welcome, Dr. Mac. Thanks for joining us. I think we're having some problems with your audio. You might be on mute.
Am I on mute?
Okay, there we go. I can hear you now. Welcome.
Can you hear me? No, I just
Yes.
said thank you for having me on because the show is just going to be absolutely amazing. And as I say, it looks like Dr. Mel and Dr. Matt got your back tonight.
That's right. We have to make a TikTok. We really do.
Yeah, we do. That'll be fun.
Yes. So let's jump right into it. I started off by talking about those statistics. The question is just in general, how can things that we put in our hair and on our skin potentially affect our bodies? Isn't our skin supposed to be a barrier?
Well, you know what? Yes, the skin is supposed to be the barrier, but the skin is actually the largest organ, and our skin has tons of little openings called pores and follicles that embrace our entire body except our palms and our soles. So, of course, whatever that we're putting on topically can absorb through those pores. And it's especially hazardous when it gets on the scalp, because the scalp has tons and tons of pores and blood vessels. And so those chemicals that's in any sort of skin topical product, whether it's a lotion, grease, or ointment, or solution, relaxers that and hair dyes, those are just make it the worst on the scalp. And so that's really where it hits a home run with causing health problems, is especially on the scalp, more so than the other parts of our skin. So we really have to be focused on what we're doing to that scalp.
Great. Well, let's start with the scalp. Um,
Mhm.
Talk to me about the evidence for the link between relaxers and
Mhm.
health related issues in Black women.
Yes, this has been a long research topic. Honestly, Dr. Mel, I have been focused on this topic probably dating back to 1999, when I have a hair research business and consult business in which, I hear from readers of the various different African American magazines and things of that nature. And I found that a lot of women of color were having issues with the hair loss. And then I'm asking them about, well, what else is going on with your hair loss? Are you on any medications? Are you on chemotherapy? And so I was hearing a lot of women talk about, being on iron pills. And I'm saying, wow, we make iron. We have enough
Right.
body stores typically, Dr. Mel, right? That we shouldn't
Right.
have to take a supplement. But what in furthering my conversations with many of these ladies, they were saying, well, I have horrible fibroids that uterine fibroids that cause me
Mhm.
to menstruate and
To
bleed,
bleed. Yep.
2 to 3 weeks out of the month, when normally it's supposed to be maybe 5 days or so. And so, that raised a lot of flags to me, and saying, wow, something is not really right here. And of course, as time went on, we started to get more research into the area where it was discovered that the relaxers, especially a published study that came out in 2011, specifically spoke of the use of chemical relaxers in its relation to early menses and puberty before the age of 10,
Mhm.
uterine fibroids, infertility, early hysterectomy before age 40, and then, of course, just, you know, taking it back, that was 2011 when that came out. Now, Dr. Mel, as you just spoke on some statistics a few minutes ago, a study that came out in NIH in 2019 that did a
Right.
huge study of actually a diverse group of women between the ages of 35 and 74. And it was found that the chemicals from the hair relaxers and the hair dyes specifically affected us women of color, making us a 45% greater risk of breast cancer. That's
Right.
huge.
Right.
For years, I mean, I trained at Howard University with my
HU.
mentor, Dr. LaSalle. Yes, Dr. LaSalle LaFall. He was a mentor. He was also one of my professors, and he is also the head of the American Cancer Society, and his focus was breast cancer. And when I did my training with him in the early 90s, we weren't talking about women of color with breast cancer. That was a
Right.
common cancer amongst white women and other races. And
Right.
so that was another red flag where I started to hear more and more
Right.
women saying, Dr. Matthew, can I take this supplement or do this? I just got off of chemotherapy for breast cancer. I'm saying, wow,
Right.
something is not happening. Something is going on here.
Right.
And so
And
I'm
breast cancer is still more common among white women, but in Black
it,
women, it starts at an earlier age and is more
absolutely.
aggressive. Just like you were saying. Yeah.
Absolutely. It occurs at an earlier age. In fact, I had two friends of mine that went to Howard with me that shortly after, in the mid 90s, they passed away, and they were like 25, 26. So it's definitely happening. And, it takes programming like what you're doing here, Dr. Mel, to constantly educate our public on this. Because, yes, when we get it, we're getting it at a younger age, and absolutely it's more aggressive. So We have to
Yeah.
be aggressive and continue to give this information like what your platform is doing now.
And the common denominator among breast cancer and fibroids and early menses, you know, is the endocrine system, our hormones in our body. Can you tell us a
Yes.
little bit about what is an endocrine disruptor, and how does that figure into this whole equation with these various products?
Right, great question. Our endocrine system is what secretes our hormones. Women, we all know about our common hormone of estrogen. And what happens is the chemicals that are in many of these skin and hair products can actually mimic the estrogen and actually disrupt what that estrogen should normally do. So now you have a disruptor coming in and you're causing all type of havoc on your your hormone, your reproductive system, the breast cells and the like. So we have to be aware of what those ingredients are. I mean, honestly, Dr. Mel, there's a whole list of endocrine disrupting chemicals. The ones that we really want to look out for are the parabens, the phthalates, bisphenol A, the hydroxide chemicals that's in the no lie and the lie relaxers. Actually, let me touch on that because there was a big lie in that piece. Sodium hydroxide, the generic, what we call it, is no lie. I mean, is lie relaxer. And those are the relaxers that we typically are in the hands of a certified professional to give those in the beauty salons itself.
Right.
Those cannot be done at home. However, the great marketing genius manufacturers decided they were going to come up with this no lie, which
Right.
is
We're
just
very familiar with
simply
that. Yep.
right. But that was the lie because what's in the no lie relaxers are ingredients such as calcium hydroxide, lithium hydroxide, guanine hydroxide. Well, lie relaxers are sodium hydroxide. So what's the common name there? The
Right.
hydroxides.
Hydroxide.
And they came
Right.
up with this brilliant, making it so easy. You could get it at the drugstore. You can get the no lie at the drugstore. You can get and you can just base the edges of your hair. It's not going to do you any harm. And man, did that do harm because
Yeah.
you allowed a harsh hydroxide chemical family to now be over the counter that can be at the hands of children. Your
Mhm.
5, 6-year-old daughter or whoever can go in the drugstore and go pick up these harsh chemicals in an effort to get that straight hair. And
Yeah.
they're going home and putting this on their hair, not realizing the magnitude of the absorption of those hydroxide chemicals.
Right.
And then now you're not basing the scalp, Dr. Mel. Oh my goodness.
Right.
Whoever said basing the edges. And so that's what it says on the box. Base the edges and you can still use this. Well, that when those came out in the early 80s, Dr. Mel, that's when all havoc really we just started to
Right.
see a demise in our women of color, not only with hair loss, but there started to be a tremendous rise in women of color with infertility, fibroids, and then I've been saying it 20 years ago, breast cancer, and now the numbers are in. We're in
Yeah.
that breast cancer aggressive category.
And I remember, in my teens begging my mother I was in my teens before she
Yes.
allowed me to get a relaxer. But I mean, I know children younger and younger
Mhm.
are actually, because of the home-based relaxers,
Mhm.
mothers are buying it for their kids at home, not knowing the issues and the potential dangers associated with it. And I think, we really have to kind of address the elephant in the room. Like,
Mhm.
um, why why is it that we as Black women, I know the answer to this, but, we've been told that we're not beautiful, right?
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
we feel that we have to do all these things to enhance our beauty, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it appears to
Mhm.
be coming at a
But it's
cost.
that's right.
I think you probably, addressed that in the Chris Rock,
Mhm.
movie Good Hair.
Yes, yes. You're absolutely head on with everything you're saying. That is the elephant in the room. Nobody wants to talk about, oh, if we don't get a relaxer. They're saying, look, we're getting a relaxer so the hair can be straighter. So guess what? Everybody else can feel more relaxed around them. I mean, in fact,
Right.
that's exactly what Chris pointed in the Good Hair film. And but we have to, I have done several interviews on this topic, which it's great when, with the platform of folks that really want to get this education out there. But I question moms. Is it straight hair today or grandchildren tomorrow? Because you're
Wow.
putting yourself at risk, your child, of putting on this chemical, which technically, Dr. Mel, could maybe be in the category of child abuse. You're
Yeah.
knowing that this chemical is statistically shown to cause adverse health effects in general. Now you're
Yeah.
putting this on your child because what you want it to be more convenient
Right.
for you to do their hair, and you don't want to sit down and take the time, or or conforming to what you think the folks want your child's hair to look like.
Right.
Anyone that takes time, Dr. Mel, can sit down, and there's so many products out here that can help to naturally make the hair more manageable. Heck, heat can help to
Mhm.
straighten hair and make it more manageable. But those are things that take a lot more time. And
Right.
so
And
I
time
had
and
that question.
premium. Yeah.
Yeah, I had that question to
Yeah.
moms. Is it straight
Yeah.
hair today or grandchildren tomorrow? Because
That
what you're
is
doing to that girl's scalp is potentially reducing your risk of having lovely grandchildren in the future. And
yeah.
that's a tough question, but a lot of people
Yeah.
don't want to talk about it.
Right. And we have come, I think, a long way in our culture in terms of the hair options that we look out for ourselves. I remember
Mhm.
when I was interviewing for residency, I sent my picture in with braids, and I got
Mhm.
interviewed at a very prestigious East Coast medical school for residency, and the one
Mhm.
of the black faculty members took me aside afterwards and said, I had to fight for you to get an interview. I was like, why? They were
Oh.
like,
Mhm.
they took one look at your hair and thought you were going to be a rabble rouser. But that was many years ago. Now we're seeing much more, many
Mhm.
options that people can have. The Crown Act that protects us legislatively in terms of the
Mhm.
options for our hairstyles. So thankfully, I think as this information gets out more and more, and the potential dangers, just from the hair products, we haven't even talked about the skin products. Um,
Right. Mhm.
that we as Black women will feel empowered to have more options available to us. Um, are there skin products that we should be concerned about? For example, when it comes to makeups?
Well, a lot of the manufacturers have been made aware of the chemicals that should not be put into skincare products. So the skincare products are not really as much of an issue because the manufacturers have caught up with what they're not supposed to be putting in. Like, for example, the parabens and the phthalates and the bisphenol A that I mentioned earlier. And so you don't really find those in the makeups now. There are in skin lotions and moisturizers, but there still are chemicals and preservatives that's in those
Mhm.
products. But Dr. Mel, they're honestly a lot safer than the chemicals that are in the hair products. And also the skin products, it's not really absorbing too much into the skin. It's really staying at the surface. So it's really
Mhm.
more of like a cleanse and little lotion, and it's washed off. It's not absorbing deep enough to cause the hazardous health effects that pertain to the hair chemicals. I mean, those are chemicals that's burning. Everybody has said if you don't feel the burn, you're not going to have straight
Right.
hair. Well, guess what? When
Yes.
you felt that burn, that the nerves run neck and neck with the arteries and the veins in our body. So when you feel that burn, that means your nerves are activated. Your nerves felt the burn. So if the nerves are running neck and neck with our blood vessels, then that it's getting into the blood vessels as well. And that's the scary factor. So
Yes.
that whole feel the burn, that's got to go out the window.
We
We
have to
can't
give
talk,
that up. Yeah.
got to give that up.
Well, I have a ton more questions for you, but it is time to bring in the audience, and that means bringing
Okay.
back my wonderful co-producers, Lila and Wayne, to see if they
Yeah.
have any questions for us from the audience, who is always wonderful and always has
Mhm.
great burning questions. Speaking of burning.
Mhm. We don't want to feel the burn.
Don't want to feel the
Right.
burn. So, Lie, what you got?
Deborah Berry just asked, how harmful are putting in braids to your scalp and long-term health, Dr. Mack?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. Thank you, Deborah, for the question. But braids are okay, but braids become a problem when they're put in too tightly to begin with. So just
Right.
like we said with chemicals, if you feel the burn, if you're feeling the tightness when a stylist or a braider is putting in those braids, you need to tell her to undo that braid and redo it. Don't just think that, oh, I can deal with it for 24 to 48 hours, because quite frankly, the stylist, they'll say, it'll loosen, you'll feel much better in 24 to 40 hours. Just take some Tylenol or Advil and go to sleep. No, the damage has been done. Once
Yeah.
you feel that tight of that braid being put in, especially the hairline. The hairline is very fragile skin. The follicles are very fragile. And so, yeah, the tightness of the braid, that can be a major problem. So if it's going in too tight, tell them take it out. You're not waiting 24 to 48 hours, because you want to retain those hair follicles.
Yeah,
Listen,
it can
these
lead to hair loss. Yeah.
edges are important. The
Right.
edges are important. Go ahead,
Right.
Dr.
And
Mack.
parents have to be careful with that with their little girls. I'm seeing little
Yes.
girls looking Chinese because their hair is pulled so tight, and they're thinking, oh, if it's not tight, it's not going to look right. But then once again, what damage is going to be done from those tight braids that are being put in there? So don't compromise your little girl's hair for what it can look like now, for the future risk of having horrible hair loss and patches and scarring, quite frankly, that those areas are not going to grow back. So we have to think about these, and that's the other elephant in the room. Telling these
Excellent
parents,
point.
look, yeah.
I
Right.
I am very much a proponent of natural hair. I have a whole brand around natural hair and body positivity. But you just said something that so struck a chord with me, because my mother would brush this in foo-foo hair back so tight that you really couldn't tell what ethnicity I was, except for the color of my skin. then those little ponytails would be so tight, my eyes would be tight.
Right.
Well,
I,
look,
I
look.
saw
I
something.
think
I
we've
wasn't
all
gonna say.
experienced that.
Yeah, yes, I must say we all have. Remember, for a
We're
great
not
number
going to forget about you.
for a great number of years, I had braids in my hair, and being out on the road, if it got a little bushy, you didn't want to wear bushy braids, right? And I stopped. I think I was in, and it doesn't matter the area. I was in a part of Virginia that was way far where I could get back, kind of Hampton Roads area. I'm just gonna say the area, but got my hair braided to the point where it was the first time in my life where actually I shed a tear.
Oh, wow.
It was the actual
You
tear.
teared up for 48 hours.
It was the actual tears in my, because I never had my
What else
hair
could be
braided.
happening?
It was
That should
actual
not be
tears.
happening.
So
What else you got, Lila?
Tanisha Monique Miles, shout out to my homegirl, asks, does Nair hair removal put you at any risk? So not just
Well,
the straightening of the hair, but the removal.
right, the removal. Well, definitely those, that's in the whole depilatory category, what we call, the topical products that are rubbed onto the skin. And they literally burn through the skin in order to burn the follicle almost for that hair to be wiped off. So yes, that actually contains a lot similar chemicals that's used in the relaxers. And so yes, it can absolutely be damaging. It can cause major burning, irritation, scarring, to the point where if it's overused, some of those areas hair may not ever grow back. So you still have to be careful with just these products that are over the counter. And that's why, I'm very big on just trying to give a lot of education from a multimedia perspective to folks that just need to know the over the counter tricks of the trade, so that we stay informed when we go to the store, because there are other ways to shave now that's not as caustic to the skin.
Okay.
Like what, for example? Hey, hang on, wait. For example,
Well,
Dr. Matt.
just the simple shape razors, the disposable razors. I tell folks that's really the best, because number one, those razors are they're disposable. You use them one
Right.
time and you toss them, so it's less
Awesome.
risk of bacteria and reinfecting the skin, and it's doing the purpose of shaving, shaving the hair off, but it's safer,
And
so you don't have the
I
chemicals
think
there.
I think disposable is the operative word, because we
Mhm.
will hold on to a disposable thing for a long time. So just to be clear, Dr.
I
Matt,
Right.
double that remark.
One use.
Disposable is that
One
key
use.
word. You're not
Okay.
disposing of it every year. Someone will
Right.
they'll
A
get a
whole
10 pack
bag.
and
They
then
sell
that'll last
whole
them
bags
10
of
years.
100 of them.
Exactly,
me.
Wayne.
Now
Use
I
one.
will say this, because sometimes, we have folks that it's not always in the budget to be
Sure.
able to purchase some of these things. So if in fact they have to reuse the razor, let's have some, clean that with alcohol and go through the whole sanitation. So, we have to look at that perspective as well, that not everybody can be able to just use one razor at a time, but let's keep it clean, get some alcohol, and you be good.
Excellent
Yeah.
point.
Go
Excellent point.
to some hotels and just hit their go up like like you're staying at the hotel and ask for a razor. They'll give it to you.
There you go.
So
The thoughts of the producers do not necessarily reflect the Dr. Mel.
So look,
Excuse me, Dr. Show.
We have a couple questions. Carl Ross asks, are there any safe relaxers?
And if it's, the thing is, there are some natural, quote unquote, they say natural relaxers, but unfortunately, there's still some chemicals hidden in there that's doing something. Because to make hair straight, the hair is curled over with sulfur bonding. Okay, that's what gives the strength in the curl to that hair. So the relaxers are made to permanently break those sulfur bonds. Unfortunately, natural products can't do that. That is a chemical base. That's where the hydroxide chemicals come in, because they're able to permanently break those disulfide bonds. So instead of the hair being curled up, it ends up just being straight permanently. So there's no such thing as, the perm is going to wear off in that already straight hair. Once that hair is straight, it's not going back to curl unless it's cut off and you're starting all over again. So yeah, it's tough. Yeah, there's some companies out there that will try to use that as marketing and call it, a safer relaxer. But when you really dive deeply and read between the lines and turn the back of the boxes over, because that's another thing. We don't like to read. Many of us. We need to start, learning to turn over the back of our hair care products, skin care products, just like we do when we go to the grocery store. You're going to want to know what's in that grocery, that product that you're buying. So why are we not doing that to our hair and skin products? And so I submit to folks out there, before you put anything on your skin or on your hair or in your mouth, read what is in there. And if you're questioning what it is, then it's time for you not to do that anymore until you get clearly educated on what that is, because hindsight is 20/20. Yeah.
We need to question these products at least as much as we have questioned the COVID vaccine.
Exactly.
Come on,
Right.
Come on, Dr. Mel. Speak a word. So I have another question from Rhoda Lawrence. Rhoda asks, what's the connection of hair dyes and perms to lupus?
Lupus is an autoimmune disorder. It's very, it's quite common amongst women of color that can, attack all of, a multitude of the organs and the like. as far as that, having a direct relationship to lupus, I have honestly not heard of that direct relationship. We just know that if someone is already having lupus that's affecting the scalp, which is called discoid lupus, we know if you're already having that pathology issue on your scalp that you should not be using any chemical from hair dyes or relaxers. So it would be a thing of just staying away from those type of products if you have lupus on the scalp. But I don't know of any concrete, at least I have not heard that, and I try to stay up to date on all of that. But it's more
Yeah.
if you have the skin lupus, then you're certainly not wanting to aggravate the lupus with the hair chemicals.
And I haven't heard that either. What the
Mhm.
latest research is showing about autoimmune disorders like lupus and rheumatoid arthritis and
Mhm.
psoriasis is that it's actually linked more to what's called our microbiome, which are
Mhm.
those bacteria that happily live in our skin and in our gut. And diet and stress can throw off
Mhm.
the balance
That's
of
right.
that and then lead
Mhm.
to these autoimmune disorders. So that's gonna be a
Mhm.
whole nother show that's coming up
Mhm.
in 2022, so stay tuned.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Okay, I have a two-parter for you, Dr. Mack. Do you have a skincare regimen that you would recommend? And second part is, do you have a favorite skincare line of makeup that you?
Okay.
Great
Well,
questions.
okay. So the first question is, what is the routine? Well, let's start with this. Everybody just needs to get a routine because I
Yeah.
think that's problem number one. Most people out here do not have a skin routine. They are using the same washcloth that
Mm,
they're washing on their body and using it on their face. Okay. And that's the elephant in the room. Okay. So that is an
yes.
absolute
Lots
no,
of
no.
elephants.
Okay. There's a ton of effective skin cleansers and moisturizers, and they all are very similar as far as the ingredients. So once again, it's just sticking to a routine, whatever sort of cleanser works for your skin type, and moisturizer is fine. I think the main thing is to look for a moisturizer that has the SPF or the sun protectant factor of at least 15. And most manufacturers have done a great job with being able to add that into the moisturizers because no matter what skin color you are, you're still privy
Mhm.
to the ultraviolet damaging rays, not only from the sun, but also the fluorescent lighting that's in your office buildings. You're sitting up under the fluorescent light in your cubicle all day, and that light is shining on your skin, and it can cause potential damaging rays, damage to the skin. So,
And these ring lights too?
oh, oh my God. Right. And folks are obsessed with using those ring lights, but absolutely. So it's just, getting people to just have a routine of what they're using. Just make sure you're using a cleanser and a moisturizer with SPF, and something quick. One of my favorite tricks, to be honest, I'm going to share this, is I use baby wipes on my
Yes.
skin every day. I mean, it's easy, it's convenient. You can buy those by the bunches, and they effectively remove the toxic stuff on the skin, the makeup, and the like. And it's easy to keep by your bed in case you're going to sleep and you forget to wash your face for the ladies out there. But that's a big favorite of mine as well. It's easy and simple.
Awesome.
And then I think there was a
And
second
then
part to the
the
question about
second part,
the makeup, the,
Yes.
yeah,
uh,
natural.
I'm not gonna put that out there.
That's
um,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, my last name is my brand name is Dr. Mack, and I do like Mack cosmetic products,
Okay.
but I like a whole bunch of others as well. I
Okay.
think that when a person is evaluating what makeup works for them, you want to just make sure that you are choosing an oil-free makeup line, because that oils that's in those products can actually clog the pores, and
Clog.
you're going to end up with lovely acne. So, it's looking for oil free. You're looking for paraben free makeup. There's a lot of mineral-based makeup now that's a lot more natural and safer. So what you're looking for, not necessarily the brand name, you're just looking for these factors that I just talked about of being careful as to asking what's in that. Once again, it's asking what's in the products that you're using. And there, folks will sell you anything, but you have to ask, say, what's in this? Is this safe for my skin? And I think that's a fair question to ask at the makeup counters.
Okay.
Great.
This is the last question, and I'm torn, but let me get it out. What are really good?
Who's gonna win?
What are really good skin products for people with eczema and contact dermatitis? And there's also some questions about skin lightening and Sammy Sosa.
We're not going to talk about skin lightening.
Talk about that.
Not going to talk about. That's a huge elephant in the room.
That is a huge elephant in the room.
Let's talk about skin products for eczema and contact dermatitis as the last question.
And honestly, all the questions are excellent questions because it's about educating us. If we know better, we prayerfully do better. But as far as
okay, I think we.
Has an issue with allergens that are in the topical products that can aggravate it. So fragrances are a big issue.
Oh, we lost Dr.
Shucks.
Wow. I think she was saying fragrances are a big issue, but I know there's storms going on, so
Yes.
That might be part of the issue. Well, I really want to thank
Here she comes. Here she comes.
Okay.
Here she comes. And you can start into that, Mel. There we go.
Okay.
We lost you at fragrances.
Yeah, the fragrances. So when you have eczema skin, which is very common in many of us, fragrances is the number one culprit. But there's also preservatives that are used in some of these products that can aggravate the eczema. So I say this: look for everything that says dye-free, fragrance-free, and that's even down to the laundry detergents and the like. They have all of these, and I'll share really personal experience that there's all these different products now that you pour some of the beads into your wash as you're washing. I think it's Unstoppables or Downy has some as well. Boy, did that elicit a major allergic reaction from me. It was so bad. I was like, if this is supposed to be a whole container, I mean, it's like a whole cup that you pour over into your laundry. The fragrance side effects is just horrendous. And that's something that I'm actually going to reach out to some of these companies about, because we've just tried to just use maybe 2 or 3 pellets or whatever in the wash, and it still has a very strong fragrance. But anyone that has a family history of eczema, what we call atopic dermatitis, you really want to watch the fragrances. You really want to use a lot of just good, clean, organic type products on the skin. And then you want to also just avoid too hot showers. Hot baths and hot showers really aggravate eczema as well. It's coming up into the colder months. The heat is high in the home, so keep a humidifier in the room and stick with lukewarm baths, and keep your hydrocortisone handy, which is quite a common cream that we use for eczema.
Okay.
And your oatmeal for the itchiness.
Oh, love the oatmeal.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes, that's great too.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Mack. You have been just a wealth of knowledge.
Yes.
And I think we've had some wonderful questions from the audience. Thank you so much to my co-producers for curating those. And as I summarize, I think we have learned tonight that the skin is the biggest organ in our body, and we have to be careful what we use on our skin and our scalp, especially the products that are marketed differentially to Black women, because we've fallen into the false belief that we are not beautiful. We need to change that narrative and also be very vigilant about what we expose our skin and our scalp to. Again, I want to thank Dr. Macklin, thank my co-producers. I will be on the Russ Parr Morning Show tomorrow morning, as always, at 7:45, bright and early East Coast time. And we'll be right back here next week, Monday night, 9 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook, Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, be wise, be well, and be health empowered.